Now, having seen the title, I know what you're thinking. But refreshes? 1, what's that stupid name you got? And 2, Magic's selling more profitably than it ever has. Wizards of the Coast Quarter 2 2021 revenue has more than doubled as of Quarter 2 2020. It's up from $187 million to $406 million. Its operating profit has grown even more than that, from $74 to $193 million. Now that's a lot of money, or damage. But I want to focus today on the overall enjoyment of the game. Because we could talk about numbers all day with a game. But the whole point of a game is to be played. So, refreshes. I can hear you screaming at your screen. That's subjective and shouldn't be taken into account when developing products. To which I say, sit down, young Padawan, and let me tell you a story. If we want to talk about a game that's been going on as long as Magic, we have to start at the beginning. All the way back in the 90s, a time of magical discovery, nuance, and bad art. You see, Magic wasn't always guaranteed to become the success that it is today. When developing the game, Garfield himself said he wasn't sure it was possible to create. But he did, and the game has progressed peacefully ever since. Not. Garfield has come on now and again to help design sets, but for the most part, stays out of it. This makes the lead designer of Magic, Mark Rosewater, the man in charge. Now I could talk about the controversies that Magic has experienced over the last 26, 27, I don't even know where we're at anymore years. But I don't want this to be an hour-long video. I really don't want to edit that, and I don't want to sit here for that long. So we're not going to today. What I'd like to focus on instead is a key philosophy change that happened around 2017. Bannings. The immortal ban hammer of Wizards has been stayed at times, but others it struck down with vengeance. Before 2017, Wizards of the Coast had banned cards before, but mostly in formats like Vintage and Legacy, not really Standard. There were some block-constructed banned cards, but like I said, they mostly stayed the hammer. However, there were some beasties that were ravaging Standard at the time. Creatures and cards so powerful, they warped the entire Standard metagame around them. You had things like Emrakul, Energy, all kinds of stuff like that. You had Saheeli combo. And you see, Standard wasn't doing so well as their cash cow. Hasbro wanted more money, so they more aggressively pushed cards. Some players rejoiced and began devouring packs, especially those of more eternal formats, which is what they were trying to get into. But others lamented that the Standard they loved was kind of gone. And decks like Cat Combo, which used a 2-card combo to win the game, turn 4, or the power of Energy decks coupled with Emrakul, it was too much for the format that something had to give, right? So Wizards banned those cards, and many more over the coming months. What had once been a rarity to the player base was now a common occurrence, but they didn't stop there. In 2019, Wizards banned 6 more cards for Standard alone, most of which came from the Throne of Eldraine set. And not just in Standard, a lot of these were banned in other formats as well, just because of the sheer power level and the appeal that they drew to those sets. Those sets sold better than many of the ones before them. So, the new strategy appeared to be print broken cards, so players will buy. Then when they become too oppressive and players are begging for an end to the suffering, you ban the cards and look like heroes. It was a toxic relationship between company and player. And though there are no data sets that I find suggesting it, it appears to me that many players at this time decided to leave Standard and Modern and Legacy and move on over to Commander. You see, people wanted a fresh frontier, no pun intended. A fresh new place where they could spend their time, play with their cards, and not have to worry about bannings as often. You see, bans are a two-edged sword. If you leave the broken cards, it ruins your format, turning it into a desolate wasteland that no one wants to inhabit. But if you ban them, it ruins the relationships with your customers. Who wants to crack open a pack of the new set just to find out that your sweet mythic is banned in the format your friends play? But as more and more players headed for havens like Commander for playing with their older cards, the hand of Wizards followed them, eager to make more money for Hasbro, their taskmasters. They started with Commander decks, a yearly release that gave new toys specifically to the format. And what toys they were. Multiple new commanders, sometimes in combinations that had never really received them, and love it or hate it, The partner mechanics were pretty cool for creating combinations that you'd never seen before. But a taste wasn't enough. As the Commander player base grew and grew, Wizards looked for more ways to monetize off the players. They started putting more Commander staple cards in standard sets, hoping that Commander players would buy them, which I'm sure to some extent they did. Now, don't get me wrong, as someone who only plays Commander nowadays, I wanted the attention Commander has now received. Commander was my format, and I looked forward to products specifically made for me. And I do believe that they should try to make some money off it, but the way they've done it has rubbed me and so many others the wrong way. Wizards of the Coast dubbed the year 2020 the Year of Commander, which was ironic because it was the year that no one could even play with their friends. Many people couldn't even see their friends. But this year, they decided to branch out into even more Commander products, and I would argue that this year feels even more like a year of Commander than the previous year. We had sets like Kaldheim that were full to the brim with uncommon legendaries of every color combination imaginable. We had Strixhaven, the same thing. We had the D&D set, the same thing. They've started filling all the sets with Commander goodies in the hopes that they can get those players to buy into it, which isn't a bad strategy, but it leads to some problems that I'm going to mention later. The D&D set came with 4 fully fledged Commander decks, as well as all of the things in the main set. Whereas last year there were usually 2 lower power decks for half the price, the Commander decks that came out with these were fully fledged $40+ Commander decks with all the things we've come to expect. Which is good and bad. It takes a drain on the wallets of the players, because we just had the Commander Christmas, as it's dubbed a few months before, and it also it's a great way for new players to get in, but it's just so much. The product saturation is off the charts. We also have things like the Commander Rules Committee banning card after card after card the last few years for reasons such as fun, which is subjective, and for the million other reasons that they give. And some of which I agree, some of which I don't. There's cards that are on the list that I think should come off compared to today's cards, and there's some things I think should go on if they want to follow their philosophy. But that's neither here nor there. The past few years, the printings in those Commander decks, they've printed cards that are so good that they are auto-includes in your deck, and if you are not running them and someone is, you are at a strict disadvantage. I'm talking about things like the free Commander spells from the Ikoria decks, where you just have a blue negate for free if you have your Commander. That's insane. The fact that they've printed that, and all the other things they print, Arcane Signet. Now you have to have an Arcane Signet and a Soul Ring in almost every Commander deck if you want them optimized. Which you could argue that you don't need to, but if you're a player who wants to sit down with your friends and your play group has started increasing in power, if you do not get these cards and put them in your deck, you're going to lose. And that's not fun. Now, why have I taken you on this long journey? Is it because I like the sound of my own voice? Obviously, I make YouTube videos, so I have to be a narcissist. The long point I'm getting to here is that bannings have taken their toll on the psyche of the player base. Why buy into an expensive card or a deck if you think it may get banned in the future? It makes no sense. The oversaturation of product that has made Hasbro rich. But I think that sometime soon, the player base will dry up. The attitude these days is, if you're a longtime player and you don't like the direction the game is going, you should just leave. A legion of newcomers will come to fill your spot. And maybe that's true. But what have we missed out on because of it? Isn't a game supposed to be for everyone? I haven't even mentioned the worst part of this whole philosophy. It's the never reprint things in low-level sets, so we can put them in secret layers or in Masters sets. What a way to gate the game for players, so that they cannot play with the cards their friends see. You're starving players of cards. Some of them are the most fun to play in the game. And in a perfect world, buying decks for a card game should not cost as much as a house payment or a car. And it's sad to think that nothing will change until players send them a message. Maybe they'll get that message with their Universes Beyond. I could make a whole video talking about what I dislike about that. And the sad thing is that many of my friends personally have quit the game, for various reasons that I've listed above. Many people can't keep up with the cadence and constant hype of new releases, the price of cards, and the knowledge that at any time, if a card you love becomes popular, too popular, and overused, it could be banned. Maybe I'm wrong. Hasbro's numbers tell me otherwise. Magic is more profitable than ever. But have you ever heard the number of players that play Magic the Gathering currently? The amount of people that play. A few years ago, I was told it was around 20 million players. When I just looked it up, as of 2021, it's the same number. Now, assuming this data is correct, then the size of the player base hasn't changed much. It's fluctuated with the loss of players and the gain of others. And if that's the case, then Hasbro can increase Magic the Gathering's profits only so much before they break the wallets of their fans. And when that happens, decline. I'm Refreshes, signing out.